And let me kind of review where we are. We've got the 4 p.m. update now from the National Hurricane Center. And I don't always show this visible satellite. I know sometimes on television it's not that colorful. It doesn't really draw you in. But I really do like to look at it occasionally. You can see the detail of these storms, these thunderstorms beginning to flare up and fire up even stronger as we are expecting Beryl to slowly strengthen. And we're fortunate that there's not a whole lot more time that it's going to be out over water, because it would strengthen even more before making a landfall. But I do think it's going to become a hurricane before it makes its landfall. And right now we're still talking about Matagorda Bay, sort of the focus of where that center of circulation will be headed. Now close enough that we can use our radar imagery as well to kind of get an idea on the eye on where that rotation is taking place. And you can see those heavier bands of rain rotating around that. And we've got more or less 190, maybe 180 miles from the center of that circulation to the city of Galveston. But remember, it's not going straight to Galveston. It's going to take more of a path up towards Matagorda Bay and then slowly make a little bit more of a northerly track. Now, if you're in the Houston area, obviously today you've seen some heavy downpours, lots of thunder and lightning as a couple bands have moved their way through the Houston area. That very strong one is now out of the Houston area, but you see how we have more that are working their way through, and we'll continue to see this. Most of these are manageable. It's not that high intensity of relentless rain. It's a big downpour and then we're getting a break. And this line now that's moving through the Houston area does already have some breaks in it, some sort of a broken line. It's not nearly as organized as the last one that moved through more or less around the noon lunch hour. But we do see these again having some lightning, also having those brief heavy downpours causing a few problems. So here's that other band that moved through, slowly beginning to clear it through the Huntsville area now. College Station, you're still kind of dealing with a weakening line as it also continues to kind of move on through. So we'll take a look now at this latest track from the National Hurricane Center, and we've got maximum sustained winds still holding steady at 65 miles per hour. So the expectations are between now and basically 1 o'clock in the morning, we're looking at a 20 mile per hour change in the winds, and that's enough to switch from a strong tropical storm into a Category 1 hurricane. Remember, 74 miles an hour is that official number that would notate that it is a hurricane. But the point for sure to keep in mind is that those slight variations in the winds really won't change that much overall on the expectations at this point as far as the threats that are going to be coming. There's still going to be storm surge, there's still going to be dangerous winds, and the rainfall could create some flooding, and even the possibility of some of those isolated tornadoes that are spawned by this hurricane is something that we're going to be looking for. And the closer you are to the center of this path, wherever it is within this cone, wherever that center ends up being, that's where you're definitely going to have the highest rainfall, the highest winds, and then the rainfall will be from that center over to the east. Now, there's definitely going to be some downpours on the west side of things, but more rain expected over on the east side of wherever that center ends up being. And so again, that whole cone we're kind of focusing on right now. By the time we get to 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, I don't want to say we're clearing yet, but we've certainly got the worst of it moved past the downtown Houston area, and there's going to be some more issues as it continues to move on through. And I've got several future casts that we're going to look at here in just a second. But giving you an idea of the speed, this continues to keep moving, and to where this is really going to be focused on an hour-long event instead of days-long event. It will be 12 to 16 hours of worth of a lot of strong storms moving through the area. Now, storm surge is one of those things that is confined to the coast. So if you're inland, you're not going to need to be you won't need to be concerned with the storm surge, because again, this is when the Gulf of Mexico, the ocean water rises much higher than it usually is. It has wave action that goes along with it, as well as currents, and creates a lot of damage. So instead of just a rising of water like we sometimes see with flooding, this is more destructive because it has those currents and those waves that are mixed in there along with it. So yes, we could see that water rise 3 to 5 feet from its normal levels, and that would push the ocean levels further inland. Also, those winds and the waves are going to be attributed to creating problems. But do note this goes all the way around Galveston Bay. So make sure that if you're in these areas that are somewhere along the bay, you're preparing for those levels to come up. And that might mean that you'll have to stay where you are and not leave if you're in a safe place, kind of shelter in place. Now, the winds are definitely going to be something else. The hurricane force winds are going to be to the southwest near that landfall. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But more of us are going to be concerned with the tropical storm force winds. So just to keep in mind, if you're in this orange shading here, I don't want you to let your guard down because, oh, it's a tropical storm force wind instead of a hurricane wind. Remember, a 70-mile-an-hour wind is a tropical storm wind. You could do a lot of damage with an hour's worth of 70-mile-an-hour winds. So we're not all going to get 70-mile-an-hour winds, but there's certainly going to be some gusts. There's certainly going to be some areas that will see that kind of wind. I think most of us are going to be much more in the 40 to 50. Have a few more of us in the 60s, and then yes, there will be some of us that hit that 70-mile-an-hour wind mark, and most likely that's going to be a little bit further over to the west. So if you're in Sealy or Katy, those are some spots that I would definitely be prepared for the higher winds, and most likely what that's going to lead to is some power outages. So I hope you're already beginning to think, what am I going to do when the power goes out, and how I'm going to be able to deal with maybe 12 to 24 hours or longer sometimes. We've seen that recently with a loss of power. Here is where we have the hurricane warning. So this is the area in which we're looking for the hurricane force winds as a possibility.